The wedding they never knew. Some secrets don't destroy families. They reveal who was never family to begin with. If you ask my mother, she'll tell you she's fair. She'll say she loves both her daughters equally. She'll say she raised us the same. She'll say she never picks favorites. She's lying, but she actually believes it. Because in her eyes, favoritism isn't favoritism. When it benefits the daughter she worships. Her golden child, Madison. Tall, glamorous, dramatic, spoiled, a walking sparkler of chaos wrapped in a glittery bow. Then there's me. Elena. Quiet. Steady. Practical. The one who never caused problems. The one who learned very young that being easy meant being invisible. And it was never more obvious than during the year that Madison got engaged. The day my invisibility became official. My parents didn't ask how I was. Didn't ask if I needed help. Didn't ask about my life. But the moment Madison wiggled her ring in the sunlight and squealed, "I'm getting married," my mom practically fainted from excitement. Dad hugged my sister 3 times. Mom screamed. Aunts cried. Cousins texted. Uncles planned speeches. Everyone exploded with joy. For Madison. Always Madison. And I stood in the back of the room like a coat rack. While they celebrated with champagne and selfies. No one turned to me and said, "Elena, how do you feel?" They had no idea I had something to say. No idea I had a story too. No idea that the biggest moment of my life had already happened months earlier. Without them. The wedding planning takeover. If you've ever watched a family of narcissists plan a wedding, it's like a government operation. Mom became the dictator. Dad became the financier. Madison became the empress. And I? Oh, they made me a role. Not maid of honor. Of course not. I was appointed. The helper. The unpaid assistant. The emotional sponge. The silent driver. The stand-in therapist when Madison cried. Because the florist didn't understand her vision. Mom's favorite phrase became, "Be supportive of your sister. It's her special time." My special time? Apparently I'd never qualify for one. The insult that started everything. 3 months into planning, Mom asked me to come over early on a Saturday. "There's something important we want to discuss," she said. I thought maybe, for once, they wanted my opinion. Or to ask how I was. Or to include me in something meaningful. I was wrong. I walked into the kitchen to find Madison flipping through wedding magazines. Mom stirring coffee. Dad reading cost estimates. A mood board covering the entire counter. And 3 binders labeled venue, photography, dress options for Madison. No one even said hi. Mom snapped her fingers. "Elena, sit. We need to talk timeline." I sat. Mom scribbled something on her pad like she was conducting a business meeting. "So," she said, "Madison's wedding will be perfect. Absolutely perfect. Every detail will be immaculate. We are not cutting corners on her big day." Madison beamed like a Disney villain. Dad nodded proudly. Mom turned to me, finally making eye contact. And then she said the sentence that would change everything in my life. "So, when's your turn?" She laughed lightly. "Don't you think it's time to start looking? Planning? Trying? Anything?" Madison smirked. "Yeah, Elena. You're almost 30. At this rate, I'll have 2 weddings before you get a date." They laughed. They laughed like it was funny. They laughed like I wasn't even human. And something inside me finally snapped. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Precisely. A clean break, the kind you only hear in your soul. Mom waved her hand dismissively. It's okay though. Some women just aren't wife material yet. You'll get there eventually. Just try harder. Try harder. Try harder. I stared at her. At all of them. At the family who had never seen me for who I was. At the people who had no idea what I had already lived. What I had already done. What I had already committed to. Mom sipped her coffee with a satisfied sigh. Well? Do you have any updates on your love life? I smiled slowly. Finally. Finally I said what I'd been waiting to say for months. Oh Mom, I said softly. My wedding already happened. The room froze. Mom's coffee cup clattered into its saucer. Dad blinked like I'd spoken German. Madison's jaw dropped so hard I actually heard her inhale sharply. What? Mom whispered. I said it again. Calmly. My wedding already happened. Madison practically shrieked. That's not possible. We would have known. MOM would have planned it. Mom stared at me like she was trying to understand a plot twist she wasn't smart enough to predict. Dad frowned deeply. What do you mean? He demanded. When did this happen? With who? Why didn't you tell us? I slid my chair back. Stood. And said the truest thing I had ever said to them. You never asked. Silence. Absolute silence. Mom's voice cracked. Elena, you're joking. This isn't funny. But I wasn't joking. Not even close. I pulled out my wallet. Opened it. Took out a small, elegant photo, printed on matte paper, edges soft from being kept close. A wedding photo. Me. In a simple, stunning satin dress. Standing under strings of lights beside a lake. Holding hands with a man whose smile could melt steel. My husband. The man they never knew existed. The man they never cared to ask about. The man I married quietly, because the last thing I wanted was to have my day infected by their chaos. I placed the photo on the counter. Madison grabbed it first, flipping it around so fast the edge nearly bent. No. No way. Who is this? Mom stared at me in horror. Elena. Is this real? I met her gaze. Very real. Dad clenched his jaw. You got married behind our backs? I tilted my head. Oh. You mean the way you lived behind mine for years? Madison pointed her finger at me. You ruined my wedding energy. I laughed. Actually laughed. It echoed through the kitchen like a bell. You ruined your own energy, Madison. Mom swallowed. But, why didn't you tell us? This part hurt. Not because it was untrue. But because it was completely true. Because, I said softly. I didn't want you to ruin my wedding the way you ruin everything that isn't about Madison. Mom flinched. Dad looked stunned. Madison screamed. You're jealous. Jealous because my wedding is bigger. I stared at her. No. I'm relieved mine didn't involve you. And then, for the first time in my life, I walked out of that kitchen on my terms. Their voices chasing me down the hallway. Elena. Come back. Elena, this is immature. We are your family. How dare you make this about you? Tell us his name right now. Elena. But I didn't stop. Because the next part of my story would destroy their illusions. Piece by piece. One truth at a time. The husband they never saw coming. They wanted to plan my life. What they didn't expect was that I'd already lived it without them. The kitchen erupted. Not like a simple argument. Not like a tense conversation. More like a bomb. Dad slammed his hand on the counter. Mom clutched her chest like she was acting out a heart attack. Madison paced like an aggressively confused flamingo. No one breathed normally. Madison was the first to explode. "You got married before me?" Her voice cracked like a firework. She snatched the photo again, staring at my husband's face as if analyzing a crime scene. "Who is he?" she barked. "Is he rich? Is this why you kept him secret?" I calmly took the photo back and slid it into my wallet. "You don't get to hold that." Mom lunged forward. "Elena, what is going on? Who is this man? Why wasn't I at your wedding?" I held her gaze. "Because you would have made it about you. Just like you make everything about you." Mom gasped. Dad's eyebrows furrowed. "Elena, enough with the attitude. Why would you exclude your own family from your wedding?" My jaw tightened. "Why would you exclude me from every major moment in this family for the last 10 years? Dad blinked, confused. Mom frowned. "Excuse me?" I looked around the room, at the mood boards, the binders, the champagne flutes left over from Madison's engagement celebration the night before. "All these years," I said slowly. "You treated me like the placeholder daughter. The backup plan. The one who doesn't need attention because she's not difficult. Because she doesn't scream. Because she doesn't demand." Madison scoffed loudly. "Oh my God, Elena. Are you really doing the whole, forgotten child, monologue right now?" I turned and stared dead at her. "Forgotten child? Sweetheart, I'm not forgotten. I'm ignored intentionally." Dad stepped forward aggressively. "No one ignored you." Mom nodded. "You're being dramatic." I laughed softly, the kind of laugh that signals someone who's finally done being polite. "Really? So I imagined everything?" Mom bristled. Dad crossed his arms defensively. Madison rolled her eyes like she was at a bad play. "So I listed it. Every cut. Every wound. Every memory they hoped I'd never mention. The list they weren't prepared for." I looked at Dad. "You forgot my college graduation." His jaw clenched. "You said you had a doctor's appointment but it was a golf tournament." Dad stiffened. I turned to Mom. "You skipped my scholarship dinner because Madison had a stomach ache." Mom opened her mouth, closed it. I looked at Madison. "You told everyone my ex dumped me because I was boring." Madison didn't deny it. I kept going. "You canceled my 25th birthday because Madison wasn't in the mood. You missed my first apartment move-in because Madison had a hair appointment. You didn't come to my art show because Madison didn't want to drive that far." Mom whispered. "Elena, honey, that was a long time ago." "And then last year," I said, cutting her off. "You didn't tell me Grandma was in the hospital." Dad looked away. "And I found out she died from a neighbor. Not from my family." Silence. Even Madison froze. Mom's voice finally cracked. That was a complicated time." "No," I said, shaking my head. "It was simple. You didn't care if I showed up." Madison sniffed dramatically. "Oh my God, Elena. This is so much. You're being so intense." I turned to her slowly. "Madison? What? You didn't even know I was engaged." She blinked. "Engaged?" I smiled. "Yes. Engaged. Married. In love. Living a whole life you never asked about." Mom's hand flew to her chest. "I can't believe you hid this from us." "Why?" I asked. "You hide half your lives from me." Dad's voice boomed. "We would have supported you." I raised an eyebrow. "Like you supported me through college? Like you supported my milestones? Like you support Madison every hour of her life?" Dad flinched. Mom stammered. Madison glared. No, I said quietly. You don't get to pretend now. The truth about my husband. Mom steadied herself. Elena. Please. Who is he? Dad narrowed his eyes. Where did you meet him? What does he do for a living? Madison crossed her arms. If he's not hot, I'm going to scream. I ignored her. He's stable, I said. He's kind. He listens. He respects me. Mom frowned. He better have a good job. I exhaled sharply. There it is. Mom blinked. There what is? The reason I didn't tell you. Dad stepped closer. Elena. Answer the question. What does he do? I met his gaze. He's a surgeon. The room froze. Dead silence. Madison's jaw dropped. Dad blinked rapidly. Mom swayed slightly, almost like she needed a wall to lean on. Mom stuttered. A surgeon, I repeated calmly. Madison shrieked. You married a doctor? You? I smiled faintly. Yes. Me. Mom grabbed the back of a chair. Why didn't you tell us? We would have. Treated me like I mattered? I asked. Her lips trembled. Madison stomped her foot. I should have been the first to get a rich husband. This is unfair. I stared at her like she was an alien. This isn't a competition. Yes it is, she screeched. And that was the moment everything clicked. My whole childhood. My invisibility. My parents' obsession with Madison. Her constant need to win. Madison had been raised like a trophy the family wanted to polish. And I was the shelf. The hard truth they never saw coming. Mom whispered, voice trembling. Elena. Why didn't you invite us? Why did you hide the entire wedding? Why? Why didn't you want us there? I inhaled deeply. Slowly. Carefully. Then I said the truth as plainly as I could. Because I wanted a day without insults. Without comparisons. Without tension. Without being overshadowed. Without being blamed. And without Madison screaming that I stole her spotlight. Madison gasped. I would never. I raised a finger. One time, I said. I told you I got a promotion. And you cried because it wasn't about you. Madison stumbled. I was emotional. Mom tried again. Elena, we're family. No, I said. We're blood. Family is different. Dad swallowed. Elena. What exactly are you saying? I met their eyes one by one. I'm saying I didn't tell you about my wedding. Because you weren't emotionally safe to have there. Mom broke. Dad deflated. Madison looked ready to implode. And then. Mom whispered the line that sealed everything. Your sister's wedding will still be perfect. But now. You've made things awkward. I smiled slowly. No, Mom. I stepped back. No. You made everything awkward. The moment you decided my life only mattered. When it served hers. Mom's face twisted. Elena. Are you saying you don't want to be involved in Madison's wedding anymore? I stared at her calmly. I'm saying I'm done playing second place. Madison screamed. You can't do that. I need you to help with my bridesmaids. You're my sister. I tilted my head. You never acted like one. I turned. Walked toward the door. And before I left, I said. Oh, and the next part? You're really not going to like it. Then I left them standing there. Confused. Panicked. Jealous. And terrified. Because they finally realized. I had a life without them. And it was better than anything they imagined. They wanted to meet my husband. So they went looking for him. Not everyone wants to meet your husband out of love. Some want to measure him. Some want to ruin him. My phone started blowing up the moment I left the house. Not with apologies. Not with reflection. Not with understanding. But with control. The messages were ridiculous. Mom. Elena, you're overreacting. We need to meet him. Now. Dad. Call me immediately. We have questions. Madison. Why would you marry without me there? Also send pics of his face. And my personal favorite from Madison. Is he hotter than my fiancé? Be honest. I didn't answer any of them. For the first time ever. Their noise was background static to me. My life was quiet. Clean. Stable. I wasn't used to being peaceful. But I liked it. The family obsession begins. By evening, the group chat they created titled Family Emergency Discussion, yes, really, was exploding. Mom. Elena, you can't keep secrets from us. We deserve to know who your husband is. Dad. If he's a surgeon, why didn't he ask my permission? Madison. Send the wedding photos now. I need them for comparison. Comparison. That word said everything. Because to Madison, life wasn't about connection. It was about ranking. I muted the chat. 10 minutes later, Madison texted privately. Fine. If you won't tell us, I'll find him myself. My stomach tightened. Because with Madison, that wasn't a threat. It was a promise. They go looking for him. The next day, my husband texted me. Husband. Babe, do you know 2 people named Linda and Tom? My blood ran cold. Me. Oh no. What did they do? Husband. They showed up at the hospital. At my workplace. Asking if I'm married to someone named Elena. I put my hand over my face. Of course they did. Of course they went straight to his job. With 0 boundaries. 0 shame. 0 awareness. Husband. They tried to get my schedule from the front desk. Your sister even asked if they could observe a surgery. I nearly screamed. Madison trying to attend a surgery like it was a spa day. Was exactly the kind of insanity she'd do. Me. I'm so sorry. They're crossing every line. I'll handle it. Husband. They looked upset. Like they expected someone else. I frowned. Me. Someone else? Husband. They asked if I was the right guy. Then asked where I lived. Then tried to follow me to the parking lot. My heart dropped. They tried to follow him? But of course they did. They didn't want to meet him. They wanted to judge him. Measure him. Compare him. Possibly sabotage him. Mom thought I was too average to marry someone like him. Dad assumed I needed approval. And Madison? Madison was desperate to know if my husband was more attractive than hers. The jealousy was a living organism in our family. And now it had teeth. The dinner demand. That evening, Dad called. I picked up only because I didn't want them showing up again. Dad's voice was tight, controlled, the way it gets right before a blow-up. Elena. We need to talk. We visited your husband. You didn't visit, I snapped. You ambushed him at work. Dad ignored it. We need a proper meeting. Face to face. Tonight. No more secrets. I breathed slowly. No. Mom grabbed the phone. Elena, honey, please. We just want to see if he's good enough for you. I laughed bitterly. That's not your job. Madison screeched in the background. He probably made her lie. We have to check. I hung up. Immediately. A minute later, my husband texted. Husband. They called the hospital 3 times. The staff is uncomfortable. Can we just have them meet me one time so they stop? I sighed. He wasn't wrong. They would keep escalating until they got what they wanted. Fine, I typed. Me. Let's meet once. Neutral location. Public. Controlled. We chose a nice restaurant by the lake. Neutral ground. No drama allowed. Or so we thought. The dinner, round 1. I arrived early with my husband. He looked unfairly handsome, even in simple clothes. Dark hair. Warm smile. Calm presence. Everything my family was not. He held my hand. You okay? Not really. I'm right here, he said softly. For a moment, I could breathe. Then my family walked in. Mom's eyes widened like she'd spotted treasure. Dad stiffened, posture straightening. Madison froze, jaw slowly unhinging, eyes scanning my husband like she was looking at a diamond she felt she deserved. Madison whispered, loudly. Wait. He's hot. Mom elbowed her. Dad stepped forward. You must be James. My husband nodded politely. Yes, sir. Mom looked him up and down like inspecting furniture. You're younger than I expected. Madison elbowed her. Mom. He looks rich. My husband smiled awkwardly. I wanted to crawl into the lake. We sat down. Mom immediately grabbed my husband's arm. So. James. Her voice bright. Fake. Territorial. How long have you known our Elena? Hour? I nearly choked. My husband smiled kindly. We met nearly 4 years ago. Mom gasped dramatically. 4 years? And she never told us about you? I raised an eyebrow at her. Would you have cared? Mom ignored me again. Dad leaned in. What's your salary? My husband blinked. What? It's a simple question, Dad said, adjusting his glasses. We need to know you can provide. I nearly reached across the table and flipped the plates. My husband stayed calm. Sir, with respect, what I earn is between me and my wife. Mom gasped again. Wife. She clutched her chest like he'd stabbed her. Madison stared at me. You really married a doctor? Yes. And he's normal? Yes. And he's not hiding anything? No. And he didn't settle for you out of charity? My husband's expression shifted. Gone was the polite smile. Replaced with something sharper. Elena is the best decision I've ever made, he said. Not charity. Not luck. Not settling. A choice. Madison shut up. For once. Mom swallowed, desperate to salvage dignity. We just want to understand why she didn't tell us. My husband looked directly at them. Because she didn't feel safe with you. The entire table froze. Mom's fork clattered. Dad's face twitched. Madison choked on her water. What do you mean? Mom breathed. You pressure her, my husband said gently. You insult her. You compare her. You dismiss her feelings. You don't celebrate her. You only question her. Dad stiffened. That's. And, my husband continued. You act like she's second place. Madison shouted. She is second place. Everyone looked at her. Madison's face went crimson. Mom grabbed her arm. Madison, stop talking. My husband smiled politely. Thank you for confirming exactly what I meant. Madison sputtered like a broken engine. Dad exhaled loudly. Mom dabbed her eyes. And I sat there, stunned. I had never, ever, seen someone stand up for me like that. Certainly not at that table. Mom sniffed. So you're saying this is our fault? My husband shrugged. You asked for honesty. Madison stood violently. That's it. I'm done. He's being disrespectful. This whole thing is insane. You should have told us first, Elena. I turned to her calmly. I didn't tell you, I said. Because you would have tried to ruin it. Her jaw dropped. My husband nodded slowly. She wanted a wedding, not a war. I took his hand. And I had a wedding. My family froze. Mom whispered. What? I looked each of them in the eyes. I had a wedding, I repeated. Without you. Without the chaos. Without the comparisons. Without the screaming. Dad swallowed hard. Mom wiped her face. Madison trembled with rage. You stole the first wedding of the family, she shrieked. You stole the moment. Mine was supposed to be first. And there it was. The truth. The obsession wasn't that I got married. It was that I got married first. Without them. Without their control. Without their approval. Without their script. My husband squeezed my hand under the table. And I realized. This wasn't just a dinner. This was the beginning of the end of their fantasy. And the beginning of my real life. They tried to destroy what they couldn't control. Jealousy doesn't make people evil. It reveals the evil they've been hiding. Dinner was a disaster. Not the food. Not the setting. Not even the service. It was them. It was the truth hitting them in the face like cold water after years of warm delusion. Madison stood up so fast her chair toppled. Mom tried to catch her arm. Dad muttered something that sounded like a prayer or a curse. My husband stayed calm. Steady. Quiet. He was the calm in the storm. The kind of calm that terrified people who fed on chaos. Madison pointed at him with shaking fingers. You brainwashed her. My husband blinked slowly. I asked her to marry me. Not to join a cult. Madison stomped her heel. You stole her from the family. I raised an eyebrow. Madison, you never even asked if I was dating someone. She ignored me. Mom wiped her eyes theatrically. We just want to be included. Included? I said softly. Included where? Dad shook his head. Elena. Stop. We're family. Families fight. Families forgive. I stared at him. Dad, you guys never fought for me. Only for Madison. Silence. Mom finally snapped. Elena, this isn't fair. Fair? I laughed bitterly. You want fair? Okay. Where were you when I moved to my first apartment alone? Where were you when I had surgery? Where were you when I started a new job? Where were you when I graduated? Where were you when Grandma died? Mom flinched so hard she nearly dropped her fork. Madison rolled her eyes. Oh my God, Elena, that again? That was years ago. And it left a crack in me, I said. That you pretended didn't exist. Madison's sabotage begins. Dinner ended awkwardly. We paid. We stood. We left the restaurant with tension thick as fog. But that was only the beginning. Because Madison doesn't lose gracefully. She doesn't lose at all. Not without rage. Not without destruction. And she definitely wasn't going to lose to me. The very next day, the sabotage started. Sabotage attempt number 1, background check from hell. At 9:16 a.m., my husband called me. He was laughing, which confused me. Your sister is unbelievable. What did she do? She tried to order a background check on me. What? She called HR pretending to be my assistant. Oh. My God. And HR told her to go away before they called security. My face burned with embarrassment. She's insane. She's insecure, he corrected. And threatened. Sabotage attempt number 2, social media stalking. 10 minutes later, Madison posted a story. Some men pretend to be doctors. Be careful, ladies. And then she tagged me. Tagged me. I didn't respond. My husband smirked. She can try, he said. I have 3 degrees. And a license number. Sabotage attempt number 3, the lie. At 4 p.m., Mom called crying hysterically. Elena, honey, your sister is heartbroken. About what? Mom's voice cracked. She said your husband hit on her. Silence. Cold. Sharp. Cutting. I didn't breathe for 5 full seconds. Oh really? My husband said loudly when I put it on speaker. What exactly did I say to her? Mom sniffed. She said you said she was gorgeous. My husband rolled his eyes so hard he nearly saw his brain. Linda, he said flatly. Your daughter stared at me like a raccoon discovering a shiny spoon. That's the only interaction we had. Mom gasped. That's rude. What's rude, he said calmly. Is accusing someone of harassment because you're jealous. Mom inhaled sharply. Elena, you believe him? Yes. She sputtered. This family comes first. No, I said quietly. Madison's feelings come first. The real reason for the jealousy. Later that night, my cousins texted me. Apparently Madison had told the entire family. I married a millionaire surgeon. I kept it secret out of spite. I stole the spotlight. I ruined her engagement. And I planned the timing to overshadow her wedding. My cousins roasted her alive in the group chat. One message stood out. She's mad because Elena won without cheating. And suddenly everything clicked. Madison wasn't upset that I hid my wedding. She was upset that I married first. I married better. I wasn't scrambling for attention. I wasn't asking for approval. I wasn't competing. I didn't need them. And worst of all, I was happy. Happiness, to a jealous person, is an insult. Especially when it's quiet. Stable. Genuine. Madison's life was loud and glittery. Mine was soft and real. And she hated that. The invitation they didn't expect. 3 days later, Dad called. Exhausted. Drained. Broken. Elena, we're having a family dinner on Sunday. To fix everything. I sighed. There's nothing to fix. Mom took the phone. Elena, she begged. We just want to talk. Face to face. Please. I didn't want to go. Every cell in my body told me not to go. But my husband squeezed my hand. Sometimes closure needs witnesses, he said softly. He was right. So I agreed. Fine. Sunday. Mom sounded relieved. Dad sounded uncomfortable. Madison shouted in the background. She better not wear white. I hung up. My husband laughed. You okay? I took a breath. I'm ready. Ready for what? He asked. For the truth, I said. Because I knew something they didn't know. A secret even bigger than my marriage. A secret they never saw coming. A secret that would change everything. A secret I had held in my pocket. Ever since that quiet lakeside wedding. Under string lights and warm summer air. And it was time to tell them. The dinner, round 2. Sunday arrived fast. We pulled up to my parents' house. I could almost feel the tension radiating through the walls. Mom greeted us first, smothering fake smiles. Dad followed, his handshake too firm. Madison stood behind them, arms crossed, glaring at my husband like he stole her career. We sat at the dining table. Mom clasped her hands dramatically. Let's all reset. Start over. Dad nodded. We just want you back in the family. I raised an eyebrow. I was never out. You just didn't look for me. Madison scoffed. Can we stop the poetry? Just tell us why you hid your marriage. I placed my hand on the table. We hid it, I said. Because we didn't want drama. Mom gasped. Dad frowned. Madison shrieked. That's not a reason. Oh, it's a reason, I said calmly. But that's not the whole truth. The room froze. My husband took my hand. I took a deep breath. And then I told them. There's something else you need to know. Mom leaned forward. Elena, what is it? Madison narrowed her eyes. Dad straightened. I looked each of them in the eyes. And said. You weren't invited. Because it wasn't just a wedding. Mom frowned. What do you mean? I smiled softly. It was also a promise ceremony. A what? Madison scoffed. I looked at my husband. He smiled. Then I turned back to my family. It was a ceremony to leave toxicity behind. Madison froze. Dad blinked. Mom whispered. Toxicity. Yes, I said calmly. A ceremony to begin a life without manipulation. Without favoritism. Without emotional neglect. Without being treated like second place. Mom's mouth fell open. Madison's face turned red. Dad's jaw clenched. And most importantly, I said. I got married to someone who respects me. And we promised each other that we would never let anyone make us feel small again. Silence. Then Mom whispered. Elena. You think we made you feel small? I looked at her with years of truth behind my eyes. I don't think it. I lived it. The reveal that shattered their delusions. Some truths don't just hurt people. They expose the lies they built their entire identity around. The dining room was silent. The kind of silence that sits heavy on your chest. And makes breathing feel like betrayal. My parents stared. Madison squinted like she was waiting for subtitles. My husband squeezed my hand underneath the table. Mom finally whispered. Elena, you really think your family is toxic? I didn't blink. I don't think it. I know it. Madison scoffed. Toxic? Really? Just because we didn't throw you a parade for finding a boyfriend? My husband coughed a laugh. It wasn't mocking. It was disbelief. Elena, Dad said sharply. This attitude is ungrateful. We raised you well. Yes, I said quietly. You raised me to survive things I shouldn't have had to survive. Dad turned red. Mom grabbed his arm. Elena, we aren't perfect. But we love you. I sighed. You love the idea of me. The version of me that doesn't cause problems. The version that doesn't take attention away from Madison. The version that exists only to support your favorite child. Madison slammed her hand on the table. I am not the favorite. I snorted. Everyone looked at me. Madison, I said softly. You're so used to being the center of the universe. That the moment someone else has a life. You think the galaxy is collapsing. She shrieked. I can't help it if Mom and Dad love me more. Mom's face drained. Dad closed his eyes in shame. Madison gasped, realizing what she said. I didn't mean. Wait. No. Elena, you made me say that. I blinked at her slowly. No. You exposed yourself. The reveal about my husband they never saw coming. Dad cleared his throat, shaking off the embarrassment. Let's get to the point. This husband of yours. You still haven't explained why you didn't tell us about him sooner. Or where he's from. Or who he is. My husband smiled gently. I'm happy to explain. Mom perked up like she'd just been offered VIP access to gossip. Well? What's your family like? Where are they from? What do they do? Are they stable? Are they normal? He nodded calmly. My family is stable. Very stable. Madison rolled her eyes. That means nothing. Elena once dated a guy with 4 roommates and he said the same thing. Dad cleared his throat. What's your father's occupation? My husband rested his hands on the table. He's a chief medical officer. Mom blinked. Dad sat up straighter. Madison frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said. He oversees a team of more than 200 doctors. Madison's eyebrows shot up. Oh. So, he's not some small clinic doctor. No, my husband replied. He's very well known. And very respected. Mom leaned forward. And your mother? She's a professor. Dad's jaw dropped. A professor of what? He smiled. Neuroscience. Madison whispered. No way. Dad rubbed his face in embarrassment. They weren't questioning me anymore. They were judging themselves. Mom spoke again, voice small. So your family is successful? He nodded. Very. Madison's voice sharpened. But they didn't come to the wedding? He and I exchanged a glance. Then he said. They were there. The room froze. Mom went pale. Dad blinked rapidly. Madison shrieked. What? I nodded. Yes. They came. They supported us. They gave their blessing. They gave speeches. They gave gifts. Mom's voice cracked. But we weren't invited. My husband looked at her politely. Correct. Dad swallowed. But why? Why would you exclude us but include them? My husband answered before I could. Because Elena trusted that my family would treat her with respect. With care. With joy. And your pattern of behavior made her fear that your presence would ruin the day. Mom blinked rapidly. Dad froze like a malfunctioning robot. And then. Madison exploded. Madison's nuclear meltdown. This is insane, she screamed. You let his family come but not us? They got photos. They got speeches. They got everything. I nodded calmly. Yes. You stole my chance to be a maid of honor. You weren't going to be, I said. You were never even considered. Madison's face turned purple. She pointed at my husband. You brainwashed her. He smirked. She's her own person. You should try being one sometime. Madison threw a napkin at him. Literally threw a napkin. Mom gasped. Dad groaned. I sighed. Madison stormed around the table, pacing like a malfunctioning Roomba. This is all your fault, Elena. You ruined my engagement season. You ruined the wedding timeline. You ruined the family order. I raised an eyebrow. Family order? Dad winced. Mom tried to intervene. Sweetheart, calm down. No. Madison shouted. Elena was supposed to wait. Wait for her turn. Wait until after my wedding. Wait until Mom approved the guy. Wait until everything was perfect for me. I felt the pain of that sentence. Deep. But instead of hurting me, it cured me. It showed me exactly how they saw me. A placeholder. A background character. A delay tactic. A supporting role in Madison's movie. I looked at her. When, I asked quietly, was I ever allowed to be the main character in my own life? Madison froze. She didn't have an answer. She had never even thought about the question. The final straw. After the meltdown, Dad suddenly sat upright, face red with shame. "Elena," he said quietly. "I owe you an apology." Mom snapped toward him. "What?" Dad took a deep breath. "We favored Madison." Mom gasped. "No, we didn't." "Yes," he said firmly. "We did. For years. We dismissed Elena. We ignored her. We neglected her needs. We centered Madison in everything." Mom looked horrified. Madison shook her head violently. "This isn't about that. This is about her being selfish." "No," Dad snapped. "It's about all three of us refusing to see Elena as a full adult. As someone whole." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Then Mom whispered. "Elena. We didn't know." I met her eyes. "You didn't want to know." Mom broke. Madison's shoulders dropped. Dad rubbed his temples. My husband took my hand. And then I stood up. The decision that ended their control. "Here's what's going to happen," I said softly but firmly. Three faces turned toward me. "You're not entitled to my life anymore." Mom gasped. "Elena. I don't owe you pictures. Or updates. Or explanations." Dad swallowed. "Elena, come on. You do not get to meet my husband again unless I choose it. You do not get to comment on my marriage. You do not get to rank me against Madison anymore." Madison glared. "You can't do that." "Yes," I said quietly. "I can. My husband stood beside me. And I will protect her right to do so," he added. Mom reached for me. "Elena, you can't walk away." I stepped back. "Watch me." The twist they never saw coming. As I turned to leave, I added, "Oh, and one more thing." They looked up. Confused. Hopeful. Scared. "My husband and I aren't only married." Madison gasped. Mom froze. Dad straightened. I smiled softly. "We're expecting." The room exploded. Mom screamed. Dad dropped his fork. Madison shrieked like a feral bird. But I wasn't listening. My husband wrapped his arm around me. We walked out. Together. Stronger. Untouchable. Leaving behind the house where I was never allowed to be the main character. And walking into a future where I finally was. The final break, when they realized I was never coming back. Some people apologize to heal you. Others apologize to regain access to you. And knowing the difference is freedom. When the words, "we're expecting," left my mouth, the dining room detonated like a powder keg. Mom dropped her napkin. Dad froze mid-breath. Madison's scream could have cracked glass. "What?" she shrieked. "No. No. 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 This is not happening." Her voice climbed octaves like a deranged opera singer. You get married before me and get pregnant before me?" I shrugged. "Life isn't a competition." "Everything is a competition," she howled. Mom clutched her chest dramatically. "Elena, how could you not tell us?" I gave a small, sad smile. "You haven't asked how I'm doing in over 2 years." Mom's face dropped. Dad rubbed his forehead. My husband placed his hand gently on my lower back. Madison stomped her foot like a toddler. This is unfair. This is cruel. You stole my moment. I turned to her. You don't own moments, Madison. You don't own milestones. You don't own the calendar. Mom gasped. Elena, please don't talk like that. Like what? I asked. Like a grown woman who refuses to worship her sister anymore? Mom's jaw clicked. Dad turned pale. But it didn't matter. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't talking for their approval. I was talking for me. The panic begins. The next morning, Mom called 17 times. Dad texted non-stop. Let's talk. We can fix this. We're your parents. You need your family now more than ever. Then the guilt bombs came. What about grandparents' rights? You can't deprive a child of family. We deserve to be involved. Deserve. That word hit like poison. Madison even sent this masterpiece. You should abort it until I get married. It's rude to steal my season. My husband was horrified. I blocked her immediately. Mom tried a softer approach. Sweetie. I need to see you. Please. I'll come over. No, I replied. You won't. Dad tried to intimidate my husband. Man to man. You owe me a conversation. My husband responded. I owe you nothing. Silence. The ugly downfall of a golden child. Madison's meltdown went public. Because of course it did. She went on social media posting. Some sisters are sneaky and rude. Imagine ruining someone's wedding year. Some people get pregnant to steal attention. She tried to rally her friends. It backfired. Comments poured in. Why is everything about you? She's allowed to live her life? Grow up. Jealousy is ugly. Her happiness doesn't offend you unless you're insecure. Get therapy. Elena is glowing. You're whining. Madison spiraled. Cried live. Deleted posts. Posted again. Deleted again. Her own fiancé commented. I'm tired. Then. We need a break. Then. This isn't healthy. 2 days later. They postponed the wedding. Mom blamed me. Dad blamed stress. Madison blamed my sister's selfish pregnancy. But the truth? Madison's entitlement finally devoured her relationships. And her fiancé realized. He was about to marry a human tornado. The desperate visit. 1 week later. There was banging on my door. Not knocking. Banging. My husband opened it. Mom and Dad stood there. Wild-eyed, panicked, breathless. Mom pushed forward. We need to talk. My husband blocked the doorway with one arm. No, you don't. Dad stepped forward. You can't keep us from our future grandchild. We can, my husband said calmly. And we will. Mom burst into tears. Elena, please. We're sorry. I stepped into the doorway. You're sorry because you lost control, I said. Not because you understand. Mom sobbed harder. Elena, we'll change. Dad nodded quickly. We'll go to therapy. We'll stop comparing. We'll be better parents. It almost sounded genuine. Almost. Then Mom ruined it. She reached for my stomach. Oh, sweetie, let me feel the baby. My husband stepped between us so fast Dad stumbled backward. No. Mom gasped. Elena, tell him he can't speak for us. I smiled softly. He's not speaking for you. He's protecting me. Mom's face twisted. Elena. I need to be part of this baby's life. No, I said calmly. You want to be. Dad swallowed. We can change. I shook my head. You want access, not accountability. They stared at me. Broken. Confused. Defensive. But not reflective. Never reflective. The last thing I said to them. Mom whispered desperately. Please. We love you. We love the baby. We'll be good. We'll learn. I took a slow breath. I hope you do, I said softly. But you won't be learning on me anymore. Dad's jaw trembled. So, this is it? For now, I said. For my peace. For my child. For my future. Mom reached for me. I stepped back. Dad tried again. I shook my head. Madison wasn't there. Because Madison only shows up when she's the center of the crisis. So I ended it with the sentence that finally freed me. I'm choosing the family I built, not the one that broke me. Mom collapsed into Dad's arms, sobbing. Dad stared at me with a heartbreak he had earned. My husband closed the door gently. Not slammed. Not shoved. Just closed. Soft. Final. Peaceful. Full circle, the peace I never knew. Months passed. Quietly. Beautifully. Without drama. Without guilt. Without manipulation. My husband and I created a home full of soft mornings, gentle nights, and whispered excitement about the baby. One afternoon, I sat on our porch, sipping tea, sunlight warming my face. My husband placed his hand on my stomach. You okay? He asked softly. I nodded. I'm more than okay. I'm free. He kissed my forehead. Your family, they might never change. I smiled. That's fine, I said. Because I did. My phone buzzed. A picture from Madison's Instagram. Her. Alone. Caption. Healing era. I didn't react. I didn't comment. I didn't even feel bitter. Because I wasn't in her shadow anymore. I wasn't in anyone's shadow. For the first time in my entire life, I was allowed to shine. Not because they let me. Not because they approved. Not because they noticed. But because I walked out of their darkness. And built my own light. And as the baby kicked softly under my hand, I whispered, you will never feel what I felt. I would be the mother I never had. My husband would be the father I never had. And this child would grow up in a home full of love. Not comparison. In a home full of choice. Not control. In a home full of peace. Not performance. And that is the revenge they never saw coming. I turned all their pain into a life they can no longer touch.